Larry Sparks, celebrating 50 years creating bluegrass music. Larry Sparks is a member of the Bill Monroe Bluegrass Hall of Fame, inducted into the George D. Hay Hall of Fame, with over 60 albums to his credit, a true original. Hi everybody, I'm Big Al Weekley with MusicChartsMagazine.com in Nashville, Tennessee, and we're going to sit down with one of my heroes, Mr. Larry Sparks, celebrating 50 years in bluegrass music and numerous awards from the International Bluegrass Music Association. Larry Sparks, it's great to be with you.
Big Al, it's been too long. It's a pleasure.
Well, thank you so much, and congratulations on 50 years in bluegrass music. I'm sure it's been a lot of fun, but some hard roads too, huh?
Yes, sir. I didn't think I've surely been playing this long. 50 years don't seem like I've been playing that long.
No, it really doesn't.
Business that long, but I guess we started figuring it up a couple of years ago, and sure enough, it's the truth. We did the math on it, and it come out to 50, and it's been a long ride.
Well, Larry, you've seen so many changes and so many things go on in bluegrass, and we'll talk about those and a little bit of your bluegrass career and history, but I want to get into the present of Larry Sparks right at the moment. Your website is LarrySparks.com. People can go there and take a look at your schedule. You're booking now for 2014 in celebration of your 50 years. I really don't know of any bluegrass festival that has not had Larry Sparks at them, at least maybe one out here out west, and we need to get that fixed. But LarrySparks.com is where you need to go to find out more about Larry Sparks and his bluegrass music. So what's going on in the present? I see that you're possibly going to start working on an album, a 50th anniversary album. Can you share any of that information with us right now, or is it just pending?
Well, we have half of it finished, and I wanted to keep this one just a simple, we did the Larry Sparks 40 10 years ago, and a bunch of people was on that album, People come on, and they didn't even charge anything. It was that good of them, wasn't it?
Well, that was very nice of them. I bet that was really special to have people like Tom T. Hall and Alison Krauss.
Get Tom T. just get him a hamburger or something, that's all he needed.
Well, I wondered what it would take to get him to record, because I didn't think he was going to record anymore.
Yeah. He still sings good, and I really like him, and he is such a stylist, and back to this album, it's going to be just a couple or three of the people that's been in the business a long time, singing with me on some songs, and with my band too. And so we're not going to keep it, add a lot to it, and just keep it new material, and go back and get a few of the older songs that fit the project, and try to do it that way. Ralph Stanley will probably sing with me on one, and Curly Seckler maybe on one or two, and I'm talking to a couple other people. Alison Krauss probably will be with me on a song, and some other folks too. We're getting the rest of it together right now, so I think it's going to be a good project that people will like and enjoy, I hope.
I'm sure everyone is just going to be ready and waiting for that new album, 50th anniversary album from Larry Sparks. A friend of mine, Mr. Don Rigsby, produced your 40 bluegrass album. Do you have him producing this, or somebody else in mind?
Well, I'm sort of doing it myself, and just got into it and started rolling with it, and it seemed like it's clicking good,
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that works good, and sometimes it don't, but it seems to be working real good right now. And we're doing this at Hilltop Studio in Nashville, Tennessee, at Hilltop Studio with Steve Chandler. You might know Steve.
I know of him.
And he's very knowledgeable of the music and how it's supposed to sound, and the mix. He's very good, and he's very good to work with. very knowledgeable of the music, and it's good to have people like that, you know.
I want to go back in time with you, Larry. You grew up in Lebanon, Ohio, in that area, but your family came from Kentucky, and I was looking here at some notes, and then one of your grandfathers was a fiddle contest champion. So was your family pretty much musical?
You know, they sort of was, yeah. My grandpa was a really good fiddle player on my mother's side, and I have some of his playing, you know, on tape and stuff. And he was from Jackson County, Kentucky, where my mother and dad were from, Estill County. I think back in the 50s or early 60s or late 50s, maybe it was, he knew a guy that was from that area too by the name of Dave Aikman.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Aikman was string bean. So they were kind of, you know, grew up in the same area, neighbors, you know, around the county there and everything. I remember my grandpa, and he very well, but he was when I was young, he was up in age quite a bit, you know, and he passed away sooner than I would like for him to. But no, we didn't listen to the Grand Ole Opry together, but I listened to it by myself. And our family, our mother and dad, you know, we would always have the Opry on and remember that mighty well around the big warm morning coal stove that we had. And remember the Opry mighty well. All the good people there, you know, Roy Acuff,
mm-hmm.
Minnie Pearl, and Ernest Tubb, and the whole crew. But I grew up with that, you know, and embedded in my head, and listening to that, you know, and I always appreciated the Opry so much, and got to play there a few times after I was in the business a while, and a few guest spots on the Opry.
By the way, we're talking with Larry Sparks. He celebrates 50 years in bluegrass, and his website is larrysparks.com. Larry, I see that you heard Wayne Rainey. Did he do something special on the radio that kind of got your interest up?
Well, yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people remember Wayne Rainey, and a lot of the entertainers would remember Wayne Rainey.
Mm-hmm.
He was on a 50,000 watt station out of Cincinnati. Wayne was from Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
I forget the name of the town in Arkansas he was from, but that's where he was originally from. But he did a show on WCKY in Cincinnati, and he was on every night. Come on at 7:30. I believe it went off at 10:30, if I'm remembering right. And he was he played, you know, the old country music, you know, the artist there, and played some bluegrass, you know, Bill Monroe and the Stanley Brothers and other people, but he played some good country music, you know, of the older singers,
mm-hmm.
and he was on every night, so that was a big deal there, you know. We always listened to him, and then when he would go off, you know, we could pick up Nashville, you know, and
right.
We had a radio. We didn't have TV, so we just had a radio
mm-hmm.
for entertainment, and really we didn't have a record player, you know, and no, we didn't have records to play, and I don't know why we didn't, but
mm-hmm.
I remember when I was smaller, we had an old Victrola, and we, you know, would play records on that. But as I grew older, my mother and dad grew older, and I guess maybe they just didn't. In their time and their age, my dad was born in 1902, and my mother was born in 1906. So from that generation, you know, I guess they really didn't see a need for a record player.
Really?
And but you know, our music, I remember having a Victrola, and we always had a radio, but no TV.
Uh-huh.
And so if you heard something on the radio, you got to listen quick and get it down, you know.
Yeah.
It might be a few days before you hear that again.
Right.
But, you know, we had that, and I remember that, and we listened to the Nashville a lot. I would switch back and forth from WSM to WLAC.
Uh-huh.
in Nashville, and that's the two big Nashville stations I would listen to. And then Wayne Rainey, he was on at nights too. And so there was quite a bit of good music that I grew up listening to in that time. You had the good pure country music and right there, and I grew up with it, you see.
Yeah, I noticed here that you even played country and maybe a little bit of rock music in high school, but it was the Stanley Brothers that really got your attention. How did you end up meeting Ralph and Carter Stanley?
Well, they recorded in Cincinnati for King Records, and that was close, where I was. So they would play shows in the area sometime, Cincinnati area, and we're out and about, and that's I met them that way, but through a friend of mine that was a DJ, Paul Mullins.
Yeah,
Paul Mullins.
I knew Paul. Yeah.
Okay, he's the one that sort of, I guess, told them about me, and they came through one time, and Carter and Ralph did. And they needed a guitar player, and they called me, and I went out and played for them. And I was just a young kid. I had been driving along, and they liked what I did, and they let me work with them kind of part-time for the next year and a half, 2 years, something, I think it was. Part-time shows, They had George Shuffler was playing for them, and when George was off, then they would, I would play for him.
Mm-hmm.
George, he'd been with him for a long time, and he was really good with them too. He sang a part with them, and they just fit so good, they're singing, and he would play the lead guitar for him. And a lot of their more popular stuff back in them days were two guitars, just two guitars and a bass.
Uh-huh.
That was a lot of songs they had was very popular.
And that would be, what, around 1964, 65?
Yeah, early 60s, probably 62, 3 and 4, around there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 5, yeah.
Well, you made your recording debut, 1965, Dayton, Ohio.
Well, maybe it might have been then. Let's see. I think it was earlier than that. It was
really?
Might have been a little earlier, but that's close enough.
Was you touring at the time with Ralph and Carter? You were in with them when Carter passed away in '66.
I was part-time.
You was part-time.
I played up till just a little bit before he passed away that summer and fall. We did some dates with him. And I hadn't seen him for a few weeks, and he had passed away,
I guess Ralph would pick up the phone then and call you because you were the first to take Carter's place as lead singer, right?
Well, no, he didn't.
Really?
He came to Dayton, Ohio in February of '67, and he came with Melvin Goins, Curly Ray Klein,
mm-hmm.
and Jack Lynch. You might know Jack Lynch.
I know that name very well, but I just can't place it.
Okay.
All the rest I know.
He had a record label called J-Lyn,
mm-hmm.
a record company.
Okay.
J-Lyn Records, and Ralph recorded a couple albums for him. He recorded one by Don Reno and some other people. He was back in that day while he recorded a few people. But Jack told me that Ralph would be in Dayton. And me and Jack we played shows together and traveled around, playing local stuff and out throughout Kentucky and Ohio and places. But he told me that Ralph was coming to Dayton and I should come over.
Mm-hmm.
So I did. And Ralph was there that night, and Roy Lee Centers was a house band. Roy Lee and
right.
I think his Fred Spencer played with Roy Lee, and I don't know who all they had, but then I knew Roy Lee, and everybody would ask you go into a place that ask you up to sing and invite you up to sing a song or something.
Uh-huh.
And it did me, and I didn't go there to sing. I didn't go there for anything, really. But I went there and they asked me to sing, and I got out and sung a couple of songs, I believe it was, and I sat down after that, and Ralph sent word over to me he wanted to talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
And he took me outside. I thought maybe he was going to whoop up on me or something. He took me over to his car, station wagon, and asked me about would I be interested in taking the job singing with him.
How old was you at the time?
I'm going to say 18 or 19, maybe 19.
Wow.
18, 19 years old. I said, well, I don't know if I can do your job like you want, but I would be interested in trying, and but from there, and that was February the 7th, 1967, when I took a job with him.
So did he teach you the business? Because you have to have you have to be a businessman the same as being, a love of bluegrass and a heartfelt singer like you are.
Well, I was talking to someone today about this, and as much as we want to put our music with us and it's part of us, you have to put it secondary to everything else, the business end of it, and it has to come first, because if you don't, you'll just be playing music, you see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand.
You'll be playing on the porch. It has to be a business, but you want to have a good time with it and enjoy it, but take care of it and treat it like a business, because it really is. It's a business, and I've always tried to do that. And you learn as you go along. You learn the do's and the don'ts and the wrongs and the rights. You learn it, but Ralph was a very good businessman too. Very, very good business.
So after working with Ralph for a few years, 1970, and I still remember, I bought the John Deere tractor album, but I still yet remember a album I bought, and I think it was on cassette maybe, and it was Larry Sparks and the Lonesome Ramblers, and I think you had white slacks on, all of you, and red shirts, if I remember.
Well, you're correct. You're right. That's what we had on.
I just remember that, and even one of the songs I think I can remember on the album, and I don't have it here in front of me, was it Kentucky Chimes? Didn't you put that on as an instrumental?
Yeah, sure it is.
Yeah, I thought so, and your music just caught my attention. I was just a teenager then, but you formed the Lonesome Ramblers, and one member I can remember right off the top of my head. Was it Art Stamper?
That played in the band?
Yeah, the fiddle.
There was Art Widener played bass.
Yeah, okay. I just couldn't remember, and I apologize.
He was the older fella, played bass for me. And but there was Art Stamper. He played fiddle in later years.
Mm-hmm. I'm testing my memory, Larry.
Yeah, well, we got to do that.
What made you decide to give the band the Lonesome Ramblers name? Was this maybe the forming of a style for Larry Sparks?
I don't know why I did that for.
Really?
I could have picked a Mountain Boys or something, couldn't I?
Oh, I don't know. I think there's a lot of Mountain Boys and a lot of Bluegrass boys, but
yeah,
the Lonesome Ramblers have always been a little bit different than everybody else.
Well, it was, and I don't know. I probably could have found a better band name, I guess, but the music is a good lonesome music, and I think all good country music and bluegrass music has that sound to it, kind of like a Hank Williams songs. They were kind of lonesome songs, but they were good lonesome songs.
I've been around bluegrass music ever since I could walk, and I have found that there is nobody that I know of. They can emulate you, but they can't copy your style. You are a true original, and you have that polished, lonesome style. But yet it's I just can't really tell you what it is. But there's nobody that will ever be able to match a Larry Sparks style, and that's what the Lonesome Ramblers are. They're not Lonesome Ramblers without Larry Sparks.
Well, that's true, and it works that way with me, and really it works that way with all singers that have done something in the business.
Yes.
I can't duplicate Roy Acuff or somebody in the business, or whoever it might be, Ernest Tubb, and somebody else, but and the same with myself. And the reason why is you become a stylist, and when you become a stylist, then you don't duplicate it.
One thing I've always noticed about Larry Sparks, you dress appropriately. You and the band members are ready to be up there and be professional.
Well, I always thought I should do that, and the entertainers can dress ever how they like, but I was brought up to that way, with a dress with maybe a suit or a tie or something that looks nice, on stage, and a different look myself, and I always wanted to be to look different, like some of the other entertainers, dressed different,
Yes.
And I wanted to be like that, and be different like them, so I could set myself apart.
And you have. I didn't even realize in all the studies that I have went through in bluegrass history, I didn't realize that Stuart Duncan at one time was a part of your band.
Stuart worked with me. I brought him out of California back in '80, I think it was, '81, and he worked with me about 3 years maybe. And Stuart is a fine musician, really a good fiddle player. He's one of the best, and he stayed with me about 3 years, and he decided he wanted to go to Nashville and get into studio work. And I said, well, that's probably might be a good place for you, Stuart, and to be, and I'm sure you'll do good. And he did do a lot of studio work over the years with different bands, and I think he's still doing quite a bit.
By the way, we're talking with Larry Sparks, celebrating 50 years in bluegrass, a true original legend, and a gentleman at that, and his website is LarrySparks.com. We have a couple connections, Larry. Number one, you had a banjo player named Jim Britton that worked with you for a while, if you remember Jim.
Don't ring a bell.
He had blonde curly hair. I think he just played with you for a very short period of time.
I'm just kidding.
Oh. Well, I was trying to think, how am I going to describe this?
Jim worked with me, I guess a couple years maybe. Did some recording with him, maybe 3 years.
Yeah, I tell you, Jim and I played together when he was about 14, 15, and one night we were in the car, and I said, Jim, you're a great banjo player. You need to get out and go play with somebody. And the next thing I know, he says, I'm going to go audition for Larry Sparks. And I said, great.
He's a good one. Jim was a good musician.
Yeah, he was. And another connection, a gentleman that I had the opportunity to sing with a little bit out in Cold Grove, Ohio, is Mr. Dave Evans. I know you and Dave did a lot of stuff together. Dave
worked for me in the mid-'70s, probably. He might have been with me 3 years.
You have produced so much bluegrass music other than just Larry Sparks music. You've kind of embedded yourself in a long line of bluegrass people, right down from musicians to singers. And I don't know, do you like history?
Sure.
I thought maybe you did, because my next thing I want to touch on here is John Deere tractor, and I tell you why it catches my attention. I've heard one story other than what I see here about John Deere tractor, and that is it's an old rock song, a composition in these notes by Lawrence Hammond. So how did you come across John Deere tractor?
But I have the original tape, reel-to-reel tape, and right now. It's packed away. I have to find it. But I've got 3 songs on it. And these guys had 2 or 3 guitars they were playing. And they was doing these new songs. One of them was a John Deere tractor. So Cecil Jones in Lexington, Kentucky, he had a studio there that we recorded at. Ricky Skaggs recorded there, J.D. Crowe, a bunch of us, you know.
Lemco?
Lemco.
Okay.
Right. And Cecil told me, he said, I was doing an album, he said, hey, I got this tape. I'm going to make you a copy, and I want you to take it with you. When you listen to this song, I want you to listen to these songs, and especially the John Deere tractor. And he said, I think you might like this song. And I did, and took it home, listened to it, and sure enough, you know, it caught my attention right off. And I knew it was different, and I knew that I could make that work, you know.
Well, do you think that the Judds caught your recording of it, and that's why they decided to record it on their Love Can Build a Bridge album?
Yeah, sure. I met him down in Nashville one time, and before they recorded it, and they liked that song, and they also recorded that too.
Let's go over just some of your signature songs, if we may. You know, in 60 albums, it's kind of hard to talk about all the songs, but I guess I'll be a little selfish here, Mr. Sparks. There's some that I have sang out that I caught from you on your albums many years ago, and I guess one of them is Blue Virginia Blue. I know that was a pretty good size song for you, and tell me a little bit about that song. Where'd you pick that up at? I can't remember. Was it Pete Goebel wrote that?
He did. Pete Goebel wrote that song.
That's what I thought.
Pete Goebel wrote that one, and a couple others I recorded. And Pete's a very good songwriter. And he had wrote some for the Osborne Brothers too, and some different people in the business. And he would come to my place one day, my home, and wanted to bring me some songs, and he did. And we just sat down at the kitchen table and he started singing them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of them, Blue Virginia Blue, and then we had Tennessee 1949.
Yeah.
And something else I did of his too. But the Tennessee 49 and Blue Virginia Blues both were really good songs for me, and they have become, as you said, signature songs, you know. And
yes,
they sure have, and you have them ever so often, you know. They have been really good songs for me.
A couple more, and this one here, and I will apologize for my memory because I can't remember her last name, but I know. Do people still request "Don't Neglect the Rose"? It was written by Emma. She's from Ohio, but I can't remember her name.
Emma Smith.
Emma Smith, yeah.
She's actually from Kentucky, eastern Kentucky.
Really?
Yeah.
So they still request "Don't Neglect the Rose" quite a bit, I would think.
Yeah, that's become one of my standards too. "Don't Neglect the Rose" and "Facing the Crowd."
Facing the Crowd.
Yeah.
There is one thing, though, that I think I would like to cover with you, not only the style of singing that Larry Sparks has and the business of bluegrass, but the last thing I would like to cover with you is that Martin guitar, because that guitar plays a major role with a lot of soul and a lot of time that Larry Sparks has played that. Tell me about that Martin guitar. Where did you get it?
I bought that out of Cincinnati. The fellow there run a nightclub had that guitar, and he kind of used it. You know, people would come in, whoever needed to play it would play it, the other bands, you know, and stuff. And that's where I bought it from. The place was called Ken Mill Tavern nightclub there in Cincinnati, and they would book the Stanley Brothers, and people came through, you know, played Don Reno, and different people would play there, and Jim McCall and Earl Taylor would play there some too. That was they were kind of sometimes the house band, you know, when the Stanley Brothers would play there, and they would be the house band, and the guy owned the place had the guitar. His name was Stu. Can't remember Stu's last name. He's passed on now.
Uh-huh.
But I bought the guitar from him in about 1966, 67 when I bought it. And I always thought it was a 1953 Martin, but I guess they checked the serial number and said it was made between 53 and 54, but the serial number dates, I guess, 54.
It's amazing all the songs that have come through that. You've even had, I think, a couple guitars, signature guitars made. Blue Ridge, didn't they make a signature guitar, but they don't make it anymore, right?
No, it's not available anymore. But I played my guitar 47 years now, the same guitar, and that's on all of my shows and all of my recordings. I don't think there's too many that plays one that long. You know, I mean, the same guitar.
I don't believe so.
But it became a part of me. It was a different sound. You know, that guitar is a little different,
Mm-hmm.
and I liked what it had to offer, and it kind of suited the way I sang and the tone of the guitar. You know, it was toned different. I really liked it, and it looks different. You know, it's a style. You know whose guitar it is if you follow the music, and it's got a different look about it, and it's got an identity look, and that's what you need is an identity look and identity sound. That's what I think. You need a look, you need a sound.
And that's what you have created all these years, and the longevity. You've never went, let's say, jump over the fence because the grass was greener. You've always stayed Larry Sparks and the Lonesome Ramblers, and that's what makes you that legend and unique.
Held to my guns, you know. I've held to the guns. I've held to it, and the people all across the United States and foreign countries, they know who I am. You see.
Yes, they do.
They know Larry Sparks. They know my music, and you know this don't come overnight. This happens in my business. It's not like a country music hit, an overnight hit, or you know, it takes a long time in the music that I play to reach people, because we don't have the promotion that you know country music has today, and bluegrass has never had that. But we do have good promotion, better now than ever, and good publicity for the music. But, you know, it takes so much longer in what we do compared to someone in country music. Or today, you know, today's country music, I'll say today's country music. You know, they can put out a record today, recording, and it's a hit. But our music, it's a hit in bluegrass, but it's not a hit nationally where it's out there where everybody hears it, you know, all at once. But I've held to it, you know, because I wanted to make this thing work and do what I could for the music and be a leader in the music, be a leader for myself, you know, and in this day and time, we need to take care of the music and keep this music safe and take care of it, you see. This bluegrass music and country music the same way. And a lot of it is being lost, and I don't know what down the road what's going to happen, but you know, I'm going to hold to what I'm doing. I won't change, and I don't have to change. I don't need to change, and I have enough fan base, you know, across the country that appreciates what I do, that you know we can always tour and go. You see.
Do you have a memory in your mind? All the 50 years that you've worked in music, do you have one memory that kind of stands out, a good memory that stands out among everything else that you think of from time to time?
Well, there's a lot of them, you know, a lot of good memories. I have more good memories than bad memories.
Mm-hmm.
And the music side of it, there are just a lot of things that does, but I don't know. We've talked about the Grand Ole Opry earlier, you know, and
mm-hmm.
I can just that just always stays in a little part of my thought. You know how I used to think, well, I want to be on. I'd like to be on the Opry someday. I'd like to be, a member of the Opry someday, and I'd like to be there and be with them people. This is back when, they had the older singers there.
I understand. Yes.
My thoughts, I would always want to be there with them, and things, and be at the Opry, be on the Opry. And things have changed for that part of it, and a lot of them are not with us, but I guess the Opry stands out a lot, to me, and even if it's changed a lot, sure, but it's still the Opry. It kind of stands out to me, and several, not only the Opry, but there's a lot of things it does. I could go on down the line and get to places, but that just came to mind first when you asked me that. That just came to my thoughts first. I respect these people so much, the older country music singers, and we still got some with us and still around, but most of our bluegrass people, the older ones, are they've done passed on too. A lot of the great ones, but we're thankful for the ones that are still with us. But I've always had a lot of respect for these people, their music, their singing, and their style. It's like Ernest Tubb. I have a respect for him because he's been a stylist, and you knew who he was when he sang. You knew who Ernest Tubb was, and I just have a lot of respect for the people that's been in the business. I always have.
Well, Larry Sparks, it has been absolutely an honor to sit and talk with you. You truly are an original and a legend. Larry Sparks celebrating 50 years in bluegrass music. For MusicChartsMagazine.com in Nashville, Tennessee, I'm Big Al Weekley.
So much perfume I thought I'd drown. And